The rainforest stretched endlessly, a vast ocean of green swaying gently in the late afternoon breeze. Sunlight pierced the dense canopy in golden shafts, illuminating patches of moss and the glistening surfaces of leaves still wet from the morning rain. Each sound, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a howler monkey, the splash of water, was amplified in the silence of the deep forest. Elena, a veteran wildlife tracker, moved cautiously along the muddy trail. Years of experience had taught her to notice the smallest signs: a broken branch, a faint paw print, or a disturbed patch of undergrowth. But today, something felt different. The team she was leading had been in these rainforests for weeks, tracking the elusive jaguar. Cameras had captured fleeting glimpses of the spotted predator, its stealth remarkable even for its kind. The researchers had anticipated danger and had prepared for it in every conceivable way. Still, as Elena scanned the undergrowth, she felt a subtle shift in the air, a tension that did not come from the familiar threats of insects or snakes, but from something larger, something watching. Their campsite lay near the riverbank, where the water curved around a dense stand of bamboo and ferns. Here, they had set up tents and observation points, marking the area on their maps. For days, everything had seemed normal, the routine of setting traps, checking cameras, recording tracks, and monitoring wildlife behavior. But last night, something unusual had appeared. Enormous paw prints pressed into the soft mud of the riverbank, far larger than any jaguar. The prints were deep and deliberate, showing strength and weight beyond the capability of the largest feline they knew inhabited these forests. Elena examined them closely, kneeling beside the mud. Each impression of the clawed paw was over twice the size of a jaguar's, with elongated toes and sharp indentations marking the tips of retractable claws. The spacing of the prints suggested a creature of immense size, moving with purpose and grace. Her heart raced, but she forced herself to remain calm. This was what she lived for: discovery. Still, she could not shake the feeling that this was no ordinary predator. That night, around the campfire, the team discussed the discovery in hushed tones. The firelight flickered against the faces of the researchers, highlighting expressions of curiosity, fear, and excitement. No one had ever encountered such tracks before. They speculated on possibilities: a previously undiscovered species, a hybrid predator, or even an exaggerated misinterpretation of large jaguar prints. Yet deep down, all of them sensed the same truth: they were being watched. The jungle, once familiar and predictable, had become a place of uncertainty and tension. As darkness fell, the rainforest revealed its other side. The usual chorus of frogs, insects, and nocturnal birds had quieted, replaced by an oppressive silence that seemed to press against their tents. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves set hearts pounding. Elena, despite her years in the wilderness, felt a chill of unease. She reviewed the team's maps, noting areas where the largest footprints had been spotted, and realized that the creature was not just passing through. It had territory, and they were in it. In the following days, the team began documenting every anomaly. Broken branches appeared where there should have been none, and camera traps captured fleeting, indistinct shapes in the shadows. Too large to be monkeys, too swift to be jaguars. One morning, as fog hovered over the river, Elena spotted a massive form moving in the distance, just beyond the edge of visibility. It did not flee upon seeing her, nor did it approach aggressively. It simply observed, a silent presence that seemed to assess and calculate. The rainforest, a place of life and growth, now felt like a chessboard. Every movement had consequences. Every step could trigger a response from this unseen force. The team realized that conventional safety measures, cameras, fences, and distance might not suffice. This predator, whatever it was, operated beyond their understanding. Its size, strength, and intelligence suggested it had survived centuries without ever being documented, a master of stealth and survival. As days turned into a week, Elena's sleep became fitful. Dreams were filled with enormous amber eyes reflecting firelight, massive shadows moving among the trees, and the constant sensation of being stalked. She began noticing subtle patterns. Birds would scatter when it approached, monkeys fell silent, and even the river seemed to flow differently, as if yielding to its presence. The rainforest itself had become an accomplice to the predator, warning and shielding it from human detection. On the 8th day, a violent storm swept through the area, turning trails to rivers and flooding parts of the campsite. While the team struggled to secure their equipment, Elena ventured out into the rain, compelled by a mixture of fear and fascination. Mud clung to her boots as she followed the largest tracks she had seen. Each step brought her closer to an understanding of the predator's movements. She realized it hunted with patience, never rushing, always calculating, and most of all, it respected the terrain. Its dominance was not just physical but environmental. It had adapted to every challenge the jungle presented. By the time the storm subsided, the team had seen undeniable signs. Massive trees scratched along their trunks, the remains of large prey animals carefully consumed, and footprints leading in intricate patterns across their observation area. They had entered the world of a top predator, one whose existence had remained a secret from humans for generations. Elena felt both awe and a creeping dread. This was the beginning of an encounter that would redefine their understanding of life in the rainforest. The rainforest was no longer just a place of study. It was a living entity, filled with unknown forces. And at the center of it all, larger than any jaguar, more intelligent than any animal they had tracked, moved a creature that had survived undisturbed for centuries. Elena and her team had come seeking knowledge, but the jungle had reminded them of a fundamental truth. There is always something bigger out there, something that watches, waits, and reminds humans that the natural world is never fully theirs to control. The calm before the storm had passed. The predator was no longer a myth, no longer a rumor whispered in the dark. It was real, and it was patient. And in the coming days, the rainforest would test the limits of human courage, curiosity, and survival. The jungle had changed. Days of watching, tracking, and documenting wildlife had left Elena and her team tense, their senses heightened to every sound and movement. The morning sun barely penetrated the thick canopy as mist clung to the leaves, blurring shapes and distorting distances. Each step along the muddy trail was cautious, measured, deliberate. Footprints of the massive predator continued to appear, larger than any animal they had encountered before, and each one deepened the sense of impending confrontation. The forest seemed alive in a new way. Birds no longer sang in their usual patterns. Insects buzzed less insistently, as if the very air had thickened with anticipation. Elena noted the absence of the usual signs of life. Even small mammals had disappeared from the immediate vicinity of the tracks. It was as if the jungle itself deferred to this apex predator, acknowledging a dominance no human had the right to challenge. Every camera trap revealed blurred, fleeting images of movement, massive shadows that passed too quickly to capture in detail. The team was both terrified and exhilarated. What they were tracking was beyond anything recorded in modern biology. By the 5th day after discovering the massive tracks, Elena decided it was time to push deeper into the predator's territory. The team had been documenting evidence, but observation from the periphery could only tell them so much. They needed to understand its behavior, its hunting patterns, and its intelligence. Elena moved silently, every step calculated, her eyes scanning for the slightest sign of the predator. Leaves trembled slightly in the wind, and for a moment, she thought she saw a massive shape crouched among the undergrowth. She froze. The shadow moved, but it was not hunting, not yet. It was observing. The first direct encounter occurred at dusk, near the waterfall where the team had camped the previous nights. Elena had remained slightly ahead of the others, taking photographs and measurements while the rest of the team set up motion sensors. As the sun dipped, painting the mist in shades of gold and violet, movement caught her eye. A colossal figure emerged from the shadows, a creature unlike any jaguar, panther, or known feline species. Its coat was dark, blending seamlessly with the rainforest's gloom, and its eyes glowed amber, reflecting the fading sunlight like twin lanterns. The predator was enormous, far larger than any jaguar she had tracked, with muscles rippling beneath its sleek fur as it moved. The creature paused, its gaze fixed on Elena. She held her breath, knowing that sudden movement could trigger a reaction. The predator's head tilted slightly, as if assessing her presence, measuring her intelligence, her intent. It was silent, almost regal, and its sheer size conveyed both strength and control. Elena realized then that this encounter was not one of aggression. The predator did not hunt without need. It did not attack out of curiosity. It was patient, a calculated observer of its surroundings. Over the next few nights, the encounters repeated. The predator appeared at the periphery of the camp, lingering in the shadows, sometimes approaching closer, but never crossing the invisible boundary. It watched, following the team's movements with uncanny awareness. The researchers noticed patterns. It avoided areas where humans gathered in groups but lingered in zones where single individuals ventured. It was as if the creature understood not just the physical environment, but the social structure of the humans themselves. Every image captured by the camera traps reinforced its presence, yet direct observation remained fleeting and incomplete. Elena began documenting more than just footprints and sightings. She recorded the predator's behavior. It hunted with precision, taking only what it needed from the forest. Carcasses of large animals, left behind in carefully concealed areas, suggested it avoided unnecessary waste. The team realized the creature had an intelligence beyond instinct. It understood territory, survival, and dominance, yet its methods were calculated and efficient, almost philosophical in their restraint. Each day in the predator's presence tested Elena's understanding of what it meant to coexist with a force far superior to human knowledge. Sleep became a luxury. Even inside the tents, the slightest sound, snapping twigs, rustling leaves, sent the researchers' hearts racing. They spoke less frequently, communicating through hand signals and hushed gestures. Elena noticed the psychological toll. Fatigue, paranoia, and awe intertwined in every member of the team. The predator was teaching them a lesson in humility. It reminded them that the jungle was not theirs to command, that every action had consequences, and that survival depended on respect and understanding rather than force or domination. One night, a sudden storm struck, rattling the tents and turning the river into a raging torrent. Visibility dropped to almost zero as sheets of rain obscured the jungle. Amidst the chaos, Elena glimpsed the creature moving along the riverbank. Its movement was fluid and graceful, completely unaffected by the storm. She marveled at its adaptability. The predator thrived in conditions that would challenge even the most experienced humans. In that moment, she understood something fundamental. This being was a guardian of the forest, a creature evolved over centuries to dominate and protect its territory with a quiet, unchallenged authority. The team began to appreciate the subtle ways the predator influenced the ecosystem. Smaller predators avoided areas it frequented, prey animals adjusted their grazing patterns, and even plant life seemed to flourish under its indirect supervision. The rainforest operated under an invisible law enforced by a creature that existed beyond human comprehension. Every footprint, every rustle, every fleeting shadow served as a reminder of its presence, and the researchers were intruders in a domain that had flourished long before humans arrived. By the 10th day of tracking, Elena had gathered enough data to understand the predator's patterns. It was nocturnal, primarily hunting at night, yet it moved deliberately during the day to patrol its territory. It communicated subtly through scent markings, claw scratches, and vocalizations too low for humans to perceive. Its intelligence was evident not only in its hunting techniques, but also in its awareness of the humans observing it. The predator was not simply an animal. It was an apex consciousness within the rainforest, a force that demanded respect and careful consideration. Dawn broke over the rainforest with a muted light, filtering through the dense canopy in soft beams that barely reached the forest floor. Mist clung to every leaf and branch, curling around the trunks like a living fog. Elena moved cautiously, her senses still sharpened by the previous week's encounters. The team had been retreating temporarily to resupply, but she had insisted on returning to the heart of the predator's territory alone. There was a pull she could not explain, an unshakable need to understand the creature that had tested them so thoroughly. The jungle greeted her like an ancient sentry, every sound amplified, every shadow a potential sign. Birds had not yet begun their morning calls, and the usual rustle of small mammals was absent. The forest itself seemed to hold its breath. Elena traced the massive footprints she had documented earlier, following them deeper than the team had dared go. Each print pressed firmly into the mud, perfectly preserved by overnight rain, a silent testament to the predator's passage. Her heart raced, but she moved with deliberate care, fully aware that every step could provoke an unpredictable reaction. Hours passed as she navigated the tangled undergrowth, guided by instinct as much as observation. The predator's presence was evident in subtle ways. Snapped branches arranged unnaturally, tufts of fur caught on trees, the faint, musky scent of a creature at the top of its domain. She knew she was nearing the center of its territory. The anticipation was almost unbearable, yet a deep respect tempered her fear. This was not just a hunt or a confrontation. It was a journey into the unknown, a glimpse into a form of intelligence that had existed undisturbed for centuries. Finally, Elena reached a hidden valley, shielded from view by cliffs and dense vegetation. Here, the air was thicker, almost electric, as if charged by the presence of something extraordinary. The predator emerged from the shadows, its form now fully visible in the dim morning light. It was larger than she had ever imagined, a colossal hybrid of feline grace and raw primal power. Its sleek black coat seemed to absorb light, making it appear almost ethereal. Muscles rippled under the fur as it moved silently across the terrain, each step precise, deliberate, controlled. The amber eyes met hers directly, intelligent, assessing, unyielding. Elena froze, captivated by the creature's presence. It was not aggressive, yet its dominance was undeniable. She realized that this predator was more than a physical entity. It was a guardian, a master of the jungle ecosystem. The way it moved, the way it hunted, even the way it interacted with the environment demonstrated an understanding that transcended instinct. It had adapted perfectly to every challenge the rainforest could offer: torrential rains, predators, prey, and the ever-present threat of humans. Its survival was a testament to evolution, intelligence, and patience. For hours, Elena observed from a safe distance, taking photographs and notes. The predator hunted with surgical precision, targeting only what it needed, leaving the rest untouched. Carcasses of prey were arranged in a deliberate manner, as if catalogued and stored for efficiency. Birds and smaller predators respected its territory, keeping to the periphery. Even the plants seemed to thrive under its indirect influence, with some areas more lush and vibrant than others. The predator's presence shaped the entire ecosystem, enforcing a balance that humans could not comprehend. As she continued to watch, Elena experienced a profound realization. The predator was not merely an apex hunter. It was a symbol of nature's resilience and intelligence. Its survival depended not on fear or brute strength alone, but on adaptability, observation, and the ability to coexist with every element of its environment. It had endured centuries without being discovered, thriving in silence while the world beyond the forest changed. Its patience and awareness reminded her that humans, despite their technology and knowledge, were still intruders in a world far older and more complex than they could ever fully understand. Elena knew she had to document her discovery carefully. She returned to her team, sharing her observations and emphasizing the creature's intelligence and the need for caution. The predator could not be approached recklessly. It demanded respect, not confrontation. Maps were updated, camera traps repositioned, and detailed notes compiled. The team realized that their mission had changed. They were no longer simply observing wildlife. They were documenting a force of nature that existed beyond current scientific knowledge. Over the following days, the team witnessed more of the predator's behavior. It moved silently along the riverbanks, patrolled the dense undergrowth, and communicated in ways that remained partially incomprehensible. Scent markings, deep scratches on tree trunks, and low, guttural vocalizations created a network of invisible signals that coordinated the predator's influence across the forest. Elena noted that even the most intelligent predators, like jaguars and pumas, deferred to this creature, avoiding conflict and yielding territory. Through careful observation, Elena pieced together a portrait of a being that was both ancient and highly evolved. Its intelligence rivaled that of known primates, yet it retained the raw physical prowess of a top predator. Its patience was remarkable, allowing it to monitor humans and other animals alike without revealing itself unnecessarily. And yet, it was not cruel or chaotic. Every action had purpose, every movement a reason rooted in survival and environmental stewardship. One evening, as the sun dipped low behind the canopy, Elena found herself alone again at the heart of the predator's domain. The amber eyes appeared in the shadows, watching without judgment. She felt a strange sense of kinship, an unspoken understanding that they were both part of the same world, governed by the same laws of survival and balance. For the first time, she experienced what it truly meant to encounter a force beyond human dominion, a creature whose existence reminded her that the world was far larger, more complex, and more intelligent than humanity often assumed. The predator retreated into the dense jungle, leaving Elena with a lasting impression. She knew that humanity would never fully control or understand this being, and that was as it should be. The rainforest was a kingdom of life, and this predator was its undisputed ruler. Returning to the team, Elena emphasized the importance of respect, caution, and observation. The discovery was not a conquest, but a lesson. Coexistence, patience, and humility were essential in a world still largely governed by forces humans could scarcely comprehend. As they prepared to leave the valley, Elena reflected on the lessons learned. The predator had revealed a truth long forgotten. The jungle, and indeed the natural world, is alive with forces beyond human understanding. Intelligence, strength, and patience coexist in forms both familiar and alien. There are creatures whose very existence commands reverence, reminding humanity that knowledge is never complete and control is an illusion. And most importantly, there is always a bigger predator out there, watching silently, enduring patiently, and shaping the world in ways humans may never fully witness.